What's up, guys, and welcome back to Wake Up Entertainment. So, at the Senzo Meyiwa trial, Brigadier Gininda stuck to his intruder version of the story, and he explained why he believes there were intruders inside the house. But the challenge with Brigadier Gininda's evidence on why there were intruders, it's just not convincing enough. Because how can you rely on those pieces of evidence? This is what Brigadier Gininda said.
Established as to whether they were intruders or no intruders. That was a primary task that, for me, that was a kickoff point, because there was, as I've said earlier, my lord, these assertion or allegations that there may have been no intruders. Once that part was cleared on my mind, that indeed, and based on the fact that I've articulated to this court, my lord, that there were intruders, then the process of trying to find the so-called perpetrators was then embarked upon, my lord.
So amongst others, the reason why you ultimately had to conclude that they were indeed intruders, it was because you went through the statements of the witnesses who were in the house, not so?
No, not really. As I've said, my lord, the people who were in the house were questionable to me. So I didn't really want to rely on. I wanted to rely on the circumstances around them to see if there's credence or there's evidence to support what is being alleged. So what I relied on was the statements of the neighbors. If we talk about statements, my lord, was the reliance of the cell phone, which I've indicated, my lord, that it was picked up at a different tower when everyone else could be accounted for at the hospital. It was the issue of the DNA, my lord, where I said there was a DNA which excluded the people who were in the house, because one would have expected that if there were no intruders, that DNA that was found in the house should have been read into the people who were in the house. But there was a DNA that was picked up there which excluded everyone in the house. What it indicated, there was a donor except the people who were in the house. So I looked at the statements of the neighbors, and I tried to look at the forensic evidence in the form of the cell phone tower in relation to the phone that was alleged that it was robbed, the movement of Mr. Longe's Twala insofar as the tracking system of how it went, my lord.
So to begin off, this is what Brigadier Gininda is saying is relying on. He is relying on the DNA test, the neighbors, and the cell phone towers. Now, the combination of these three, in this case, it's just not reliable enough, because Gininda is saying the DNA excluded the people that were in the house. Therefore, because of that, they were intruders. But the challenge with that evidence now is that that very same DNA test that is excluding the people that were in the house, it also excludes the accused. So as much as Gininda can go on to say that, yes, there were indeed intruders inside the house, but then why did you arrest these five people based on this evidence of the DNA that you're picking? And not only that, this DNA issue, I've seen somewhere where it says that the people that were inside the house, they were not tested for DNA tests. So I'm not sure what Gininda is talking about here when he's saying the DNA excluded the people that were in the house, because the people that were in the house were not tested for the DNA. So I'm not quite sure what Gininda is talking about here on this first piece of the evidence of the DNA. The second challenge now, Gininda is saying he is relying on the neighbors and what they saw to conclude that there were intruders inside the house. But here we go again. These neighbors now, they are also compromised themselves. These neighbors, it's not like they are saints in this whole issue, because they went into the house and cleaned the scene itself. So we just cannot rely on people who are compromised like that. And the neighbors, like the Mtokozi Setwala, Senzo Meyiwa's friend, he jumped to the neighbor's house, but when he jumped to the neighbor's house there, he never bothered to tell them that they were intruders at the Kumalo house. But surprisingly, Mtokozi Setwala jumped back to the Kumalo house. So Mtokozi Setwala was jumping back to where the intruders were at. It's kind of dramatic. And the third one that Gininda is relying on, he is relying on the cell phone towers that were picking up these lines of these people who were moving up and about to conclude that they were definitely intruders. But what if these people were just walking on their own and going to the stores and just going to the park and stuff? So from these three pieces of evidence, we can definitely conclude that Gininda didn't do enough of his research, because how can you rely on such weak evidence to conclude that there were intruders inside the house? So what is needed here to prove that there were no intruders inside the Kumalo house? The defense has to prove at least their version of what happened that night. They have to come up with a version that definitely makes sense and conclude with witness statements and come up with, say exactly what happened. So this is the issue that is on the ground. The defense lawyers, they need to provide concrete evidence to support the claim that there were no intruders inside the house. They need to prove it beyond any reasonable doubt. If they prove that point, then all the 5 accused will be exonerated from this case. And most of the effort of the defense actually has to go into proving this version that there were no intruders, and they can just finish this case quickly rather than going at the evidence that is being presented by the state. That point has to be reiterated over and over again, just like Advocate Defo, what he used to do, and also what Advocate Mngomezulu was doing. Probably, maybe that's why they then ended up being removed from the Senzo Meyiwa trial. You never know. But if they keep pressing that button as the defense team, then they definitely will be able to get some points on the board. That is what worries the state. For as long as you are not touching the no intruders version, the state is not concerned at all. And the state itself is doing its job. They have already brought these 5 accused before the court, and they have their own evidence of the DNA, the neighbors, and some witnesses who were also inside the house. For them, they already have the points on the board. The state is definitely leading this case so far. It's up to the defense to actually challenge the state, but if things continue as they are, the state is definitely going to be winning this case. There is definitely no mistrial that is going to be ruled by Judge Rataye. The state is definitely leading this one, and it's up to the defense to take this case to the state and shift things and make things a little bit more interesting here. So this is what we brought to you in this analysis of Brigadier Gininda and these no intruder versions of the story. Tell me what you think in the comment section, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.